The 22 Forever game is officially in the books. What did we learn and which Utah players had the best outing? We're talking about that and more on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. My name is JC Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department, and on today's show, we're going to be diving into everything that happened during the 22 Forever game. It was a great outing for the Utah football team. Great to see it all on display, see the guys get out there. And look, a lot of guys didn't play, of course, but we still got to learn a little bit. And in order to help me break down everything we got to see from the Utah football team, it's friend of the show and Fan Nation All Utes, Cole Bagley. And Cole, I think the number one takeaway I have from this game is Brandon Rose, won the job right now. That's what it feels like. Things can change come fall, but as of right now, you look at what Brandon Rose did. He finished with a team high 233 passing yards in the game. He had a touchdown. He was on 19 of 24 overall passing too. So really strong showing from Rose. It's everything that Kyle Whittingham had discussed basically and talked about, that, hey, he was the front runner for the job. And that's how it played out on the field. He looked really sharp, and it was fun to see him go out there and execute the offense so effectively.
Yeah, I mean, it was, if you blinked, you kind of missed it. And what I mean by that is, once he stepped off the field, kind of looking down at the stat sheet, and you go, wow, I mean, he was excellent. 19 for 24, 233 yards and a touchdown. He showed exactly why everybody's been talking about him during spring ball. I mean, I outside of his high school tape, hadn't really seen what this kid could do, and everybody, so coming yesterday, that was what I was most, looking forward to. Is all right. He comes in, what can this guy do? Obviously, we're not going to see any Cam Rising today. And, it was awesome to see how far Brandon's come. I know last year, he was having a tough time really adjusting, but it seems that, you're in the program now. He had it together. No wow moments, nothing that was like, man, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. But, for a kid that struggled a little bit early on and has now been with the program for a year and got to really study in a solid room, learning from guys like Cam Rising and Bryson Barnes and whatnot. He was great. People may have been a little disappointed with the availability of the roster. Most of the ones were not in the game, but for myself, I totally geeked out on yesterday's game. I loved seeing all those young faces, all those new guys, and some of the freshmen from last year and the freshmen from this year. It was a lot of fun to watch yesterday, and yeah, I mean, Brandon was probably the spotlight of that, so it was fun to see what he can do. And looks like what everybody's been saying about him is true. He seems to be the real deal per se, and it's exciting. It'll be fun to see what he can do at that 2 position behind Rising as we get closer to the season.
And so much of what spring football is about is development. It's about the future. Coaches get to spend more time with the younger guys on the roster versus in season, you're spending all your time with the guys who are in win now mode because, of course, you're trying to win games, go 1-0 each and every week of the season versus this spring ball time allows these guys to get more reps. And that's the other thing. This is the closest thing they're going to get to a game situation when they're going against each other in the spring game, 22 Forever game, basically. So it's a nice thing it provides. Now, obviously, we said Brandon Rose looked really sharp. He was clearly the best quarterback. Unfortunately, Nate Johnson did throw an interception, still made a couple of nice throws outside of that, but still, it was kind of the thing where when you're looking at it, this is why it feels like Rose is the guy, right? It's because he has performed the best. And also, look, Bryson didn't get a chance to do a lot. We've seen in the past like last year's spring game, he looked pretty sharp. So we still know with Bryson, but as we said, Brandon just looked the best. Bryson, Nate, both kind of up and down days. And it definitely feels like this is the way the Utah quarterback room sits right now is that if we had to at the moment, Brandon would be 1. It would be Bryson would be 2, and then you'd have Nate Johnson at 3.
Yeah, and it was interesting to just kind of we saw a lot of quarterbacks yesterday. It was for me, what I see with Brandon is a little bit better games management and a
Mhm.
better, more accurate arm than Nate Johnson. Just as of right now, that doesn't mean that can't change. And
Yeah.
Nate has been dealing with some injuries, I think. But I think Nate, as of right now, I think Nate's greatest skill set is how quick he is, how fast he can
Mhm.
move the ball with his legs. Reminds me a little bit of what Jaquinton Jackson was doing at quarterback, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Very more deadly with his legs, which
Yes.
is useful. There's a lot of
Yeah.
guys that can do that. I think Anthony Richardson is a guy that's more dangerous with his legs than his arm, but that's besides the point. But Rose, to me, very accurate with his arm, confident, good games management, and was consistent. That's a big thing. You need consistency out of a quarterback. You can't be ebbing and flowing. You can't go in one drive and you're slinging it. You're going 10 for 10 on passes, and you come in
Mhm.
the next drive you're throwing an interception. So consistent, solid, very good, exciting that he's showing that this young in his career, and it's great for the position battle. I mean, now you've got everybody's vying for it. I think after the Rose Bowl, after this last season, everybody's thinking, unaware of what Cam was going to do. Okay, is Nate Johnson the guy? Is Nate going to be stepping in and starting? Well, and Brandon said, "Hold up, I'm still here. I'm
Yeah.
still here, ready to compete." And it was fun to see Matt Coward. Obviously, he had
Mhm.
he showed how young he is. He had some poor decisions that he made, but he also had a touchdown pass that was really
Mhm.
incredible. Um, that was one of the highlight plays for me. He really could not have threaded the needle any better. The
Yeah.
window was very, very tight, nearly intercepted before.
Mhm.
It was caught for a touchdown. But I mean, Utah fans, if there's one thing to pull away from what you saw yesterday, it's that Utah's quarterback room is definitely the deepest it's ever been. There's a lot of
Mhm.
talent and a lot of different skill sets, which is very, very good for post Cam Rising after 2023.
It absolutely is, and the season is a grind too. So you never know. Look, obviously, if Cam were to go down, you only expect like, okay, then you just be on your number two. But we have seen situations play out for teams where even the backup goes down, and then you're on your third string guy. So it's important to have a deep room overall, and that is something this Utah team has. And I do feel good about the direction it's in. I don't think we should get too wrapped up in any of some of the like we said. Nate wasn't outstanding. It wasn't like he was as good as Brandon, but Nate's a guy who's battled injuries. We've still seen the special plays he makes, and is going to have all of fall camp to get back up to speed and let some of those things develop too. So I'm still feeling good about the position that he is at and in overall. And one of the fun things about the spring game, of course, is not all about the quarterbacks. Get to see some of the other guys on display. And one of the fun things that I was excited to go out there and watch was how Jaquinton Jackson looked. And I thought he looked outstanding. Another guy who looked exceptional was Mikey Matthews. How about leading this team in receptions? He had 7 overall. That was the team lead in receptions. So always fun to see the other guys that are going to step up on in these games. And I think I mentioned Jaquinton, but we all expect Jaquinton to kind of take this next step. I think Mikey Matthews is the guy that it's just so much fun to see what his potential be as a true freshman, how involved he could be in this offense. I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like, Cole.
Yeah, I mean, all those names that you mentioned were great. I mean, Jaquindon, he's ready to take that next step.
Mhm.
Obviously, last year coming in the middle of the season, changing positions was phenomenal
Mhm.
for stepping into that role, and then now having had more time, going through an entire spring camp, being able to focus on just that position. He know that's what he's going to play, and he looked great. I mean, it looks like he's already taken a step forward, and there's still 4 or 5 months before that season begins. He's just going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to develop. He's going to have an entire fall camp, and he is going to be amazing. He's versatile. I mean, he was catching
Mhm.
passes, he was going for extra yards, and he looked good in the trenches too. I love Mikey
Yep.
Matthews. I think he is going to be a phenomenal receiver for this program. Like you mentioned, leading the team out there in terms of receptions, go 7 for 7. I mean,
Yeah.
for freshmen to come in, a brand new freshman. This isn't a red shirt. This is a kid that was playing high school just months ago to come into a spring game and show your consistency to go 7 for 7, not drop a single pass, confident. Again, there was no wow moments for me,
Yeah.
but that's okay. There doesn't necessarily need to be. Sometimes you just need those receivers that can pick up a good that you can rely on, right? That
Mhm.
okay, every time I throw the ball his way, if I throw it correctly, he's going to bring it down every single time. And Mikey Matthews has that potential. Um, so yeah, the offense looks good, and defensively, I I loved what I saw from some of last year's freshmen. Justin Medlock looked awesome. Not
As he has
just
all
in
camp, right?
terms of
He's been incredible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, from what I've been told, multiple sources, he is the best kid in that room on certain days. Now it's
Oh,
just
really?
finding that consistency.
Wow.
Okay, Medlock is for real,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited to see what he can do. Like I said, on certain days, he looks like the best guy out there. It's just getting that on a consistent basis,
Yep.
and he's going to. I have full faith. Justin is an awesome kid. I've been able to work with him one on one a lot. He's
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. Can't wait for him to take it to the next level this year. I expect him to contribute.
I
And
do
then
too.
Chase Kennedy. Chase Kennedy is in that
Mm-hmm.
same realm as Justin. At times can be the best guy in the room. It's just finding it on a
Mm-hmm.
consistent basis. I loved what he showed us yesterday. He is just he's vicious, man. And that's what we saw. Matt Coward took a pretty rough hit from behind,
Mm-hmm.
forced fumble, and Chase is awesome, dude. I'm excited for those two. Those two guys, give it another season or two, they're going to be the face of this Utah defense.
I think, yeah. I mean, especially when we talk about factor in Lander Barton rolling with that group too. You talk about a big three of those guys too, with whoever might emerge in the secondary. Some of those young guys. It's a special group we are going to be talking about, and we're going to continue to talk about our takeaways from the Utah spring football game or the 22 Forever game in a moment. But first, I want to talk to you guys about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. You can pick on things like if you think a pitcher will go over in strikeouts, you can build a same game parlay with your favorite matchup of the day. So many different options. That's what makes FanDuel so great to bet on. So don't miss your chance to go to a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Cole, you started to hit on some of the defensive standouts for this team as well. I think before we dive into the defensive ball, there was one other guy on offense I really wanted to talk about. My biggest question going in the spring game was how the offensive line was going to gel. And that was something we, of course, really didn't get to see because we had the offensive line, majority of the guys basically just sitting out. Coaches obviously felt comfortable with what they saw from them during different portions of spring practices. But there's been a lot made about the Utah receiver room overall, and something that was really fun to see was Money Parks go out there and really shine. Caught the touchdown pass from Brandon Rose, led this Utah team, or I guess it's one Utah team in this one, but led his team or any Utah receiver in receiving yards overall too. So Devon Bailey stood out every spring practice we saw. Money Parks feels like the clear number 2. I do feel like when you get those two guys, you let Brant Keithy healthy, eventually Thomas Yasmin out there. That's where I'm feeling good about where this Utah team is at in terms of pass catchers. That's not even mentioning Jaquindon Jackson, who made a couple plays in the pass game too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just barely saw the tip of the iceberg with Money Parks last year, right? Didn't get a ton of touches, but when passes came his direction, he made the most of them. What obviously comes to mind is the Pac-12 championship. That touchdown pass that he had. It wasn't just a catch it in the end zone deal. It was a catch it, make a nice move. Jump off of a tackle and take it almost 60 yards for a touchdown. So it was great. And a name that you didn't mention was Chris Reed. Another guy from last year. It was fun to see him, score a touchdown and play incredibly well. So a lot of good things in my mind. You got to take the spring game with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Don't overanalyze it, but it's
Charlie Brewer
encouraging.
going perfect for passing for anyone.
Yeah. But it's encouraging that we saw a lot of guys that we hadn't seen from last year prove that they can play and that this Utah football team is going to be in good hands. And so, offense, very encouraging. And then defensively, I'm sure you've got a couple guys as well that stood out to you.
Before we even dive into the defense, there's another thing I got to say. Just exciting, just because we're talking about the offensive guys. Those are the dudes, of course, who score the points. Utah is going to have a much stronger offense overall potentially because they might have a kicking game. Cole Becker came out there as one of the loudest we heard the crowd get all day long when he nailed a 46-yard field goal. This is a guy who between 40 and 40 yards was, I believe, 40 to 49 yards was 4 or 5 or either 5 or 6 last year with the Buffs. He was about the only thing good they had going offensively, but it's really encouraging that this Utah team seems to have a reliable option at kicker in Cole Becker. Cole.
Yep. I mean, not much more else.
Exactly.
Not much more.
You probably,
needs to
I
be
mean,
said.
he's your Cole brother, right? So like you probably
Honestly,
always
dude,
have faith in him, right?
every time they kept saying it, I kept looking up because it's a
Yeah.
Cole with a B last name. And it was funny. My wife was like, the first time she said it, I was like, for 1 second, for whatever reason, I thought that they were saying your name. I was like, I wish they were, but I'm glad that it's his because this kid is clutch. And no, he's automatic from that range, like you had mentioned, and that could elevate this team.
Mhm.
I think the Utah fan base has learned how critical having a good kicker is over the last few seasons because there's times where they just haven't been able to count on him, and you're leaving points on the
Always
table
having to go for it on fourth down.
yeah, like it's and I feel like football is more so gravitating that way anyways, that teams are
Yes.
just like, I'm gonna go for it on fourth if I'm inside, on their half of the field. A lot of times I'm for that as well. If you're
Mhm.
within 3, 4 yards, just go for it, right?
Yes.
Analytics are gonna tell you to do that. But there's certain instances where you have got to pick up 3 points, and Utah has not been able to do that. So having this kid, it's like I said, take everything with a grain of salt, but it's encouraging, it's awesome, and yeah, I think it's cool that the fans got excited off a field goal in a spring game. Like that's something that when that guy comes out, nobody should be paying attention, but
Exactly.
they were, and he showed them that, hey, you can have confidence in me. So that's huge. That's big.
It's absolutely big for this team to have that trust in that role. And another reason the fans had to applaud was Miles Battle going out there and getting a pick six in his first action inside Rice Eccles Stadium. He's the guy I'm really excited about. It was fun watching him battle out there. No pun intended, even just during spring ball practices. And I think he's just a reliable guy to have on the outside. But Cole, he was far from the only guy that stood out on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I just quickly on Miles, I think that may be the comparable Mohamed Diabate for this season.
Yeah.
You know, a veteran defender, transferring in from another very good school. It's great to have him. I think it's going to take. He's going to have to show up. He's going to have to show out to
Mhm.
earn a starting position. But to me, he has that potential to be like Diabate was last year. Coming in with a lot of veteran experience, and just lifts a room and works his way into a starting position. We'll see. Obviously, the DBs are very, very talented for this Utah roster already, but
Mhm.
Miles is awesome, and he showed that he has that X factor in being able to read what a quarterback's doing to be able to make a play, right? I mean, the best to potentially ever do it is Clark Phillips, who's no longer there, but Miles kind of showed a little bit more of that. I think that
Yeah.
interception, he very well read where that pass was going to end up, and jumped the route, picked it off, and took it for 6 points. So that was very encouraging to see. Excited about that. Like I already mentioned, Chase Kennedy, Justin Medlock. I thought Elijah Davis had a good game.
Mhm.
Um, 5 total tackles, 4 solo. I've heard a lot of good things about him, that he's come a long way.
Yeah.
And just, beyond that, there was a couple other, impressive things. It was good to see Josh Calvert out there, especially after his brother left the program.
Mhm.
Josh staying committed to Utah, and, 6 total tackles and a pass breakup. So, yeah, a lot of good things. Like I said earlier, it wasn't a game where you're going to see a lot of starters. I don't really think you saw many overall, but for people that were really excited to see the depth and these young players, you couldn't have asked for a better demonstration than yesterday.
Mhm. No, you're absolutely right. I think that's what's encouraging, and that's what you should feel about a spring game when you're leaving it. Encouraged, excited about the future. It's not like, oh, we're going to go dominate. And the nice thing for this Utah football team is no guy did go out and dominate in the spring game, then instantly hit the transfer portal like Colorado already had. Even though, look, I'm happy for Buffs
Yeah,
fans that everyone was out there supporting, but that's just one of the tough points about college football right now. And it also,
dude.
well,
The difference between this year and last year at Colorado, there's going to be a lot more disappointed people this year than
yeah,
than last. It's they're obviously going to win a lot more games.
It'll be
But
better. Yeah.
if they go 500, I'll be surprised.
As everyone else would. And there's a reason that guy had a big game and then decided, hey, I'm gonna look somewhere else because, like you said, I mean, this is a team that won one game last year. I'm not.
Well, if you're that good, go play at an actual program that's proven to be good.
Exactly.
Colorado is a wolf in sheep's clothing, man. Like they're not legit yet. They have not proven that they can compete. They're nothing yet. You can't tell me that they're going to go and be, even 7,500. Like that's just not, to me, that's not going to happen. Like they have a really tough schedule. The Pac-12 still runs through Salt Lake City, and you've got a lot of really good teams this year, and obviously USC, Oregon, Washington. Like it's going to be one of those 4 teams winning it, and Colorado is going to be, down towards the bottom. I think they'll get close. I think a very realistic record for Colorado is going to be 4 or 5 wins.
Yep, 4 is the number I was thinking.
And I think ceiling is 6 or 7. That's the ceiling, and it's going to take some luck, I think, and maybe 1 or 2 teams not showing up or taking them seriously. Don't get me wrong; they can catch you off guard. Utah's going to need to go in. Utah's going to need to go into that game and play and give 100%.
It's good to have it at home this year rather than go on the road there.
Definitely, they're going to have to show up, but Colorado is no.
It's one thing to do what TCU did, like a 1-year jump like that, where it's like, whoa, wow, somehow they're in the college football playoff and even somehow squeak into the national championship games to look back on. It's another thing to go from one win to all of a sudden your Pac-12 championship game and all stuff like that. Like it's unrealistic expectations to have. And like I said, I mean, anything is possible, I guess, but I'm with you, Cole. I think you're absolutely right about the Buffs. So it'll be interesting to see. But either way, for the University of Utah, it was a great Saturday to get out there and see everyone show out and support. And Cole, this should be a great week for Utah football because there's going to be some Utes who hear their name called in the NFL draft. For you, for me, I do feel like there's going to be 4 Utes that are get drafted, and then other guys are going to end up getting camp invites. Where do you stand on Utah in the draft this coming Thursday?
Let me ask you, who do you think's getting drafted?
Okay, so Dalton, first round for sure. Clark feels like a second right now. I feel like people are knocking him for the height. I think in a redraft, he'll end up being one of those first round guys, so he'll go there. I think Braden Daniels goes anywhere to the 3rd to the 4th round, and I think Diabate, because of his testing numbers and just some of the traits and things he showed on the field, I think he squeezes in the 7th round. He could maybe get in 6th, but I see 7, and those are the 4 guys I see right now.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And to be honest, outside of those guys, I don't know that anybody else is going to sign free agent deals. I don't see really no name, unfortunately, stands out to me. Last year,
that was crazy. That was last year.
I mean, tons of free agent deals, and some of those turned out great for a few of those guys. And but for me this year, we're going to have, I think, 4 guys drafted, and then I don't see anybody else, unfortunately. The talent to me just isn't there. Maybe 1, maybe 2, but like I said, none of the rest of the guys to me did enough this season to get to that level. But for the 4 guys that that you mentioned, they're going to be drafted, and I think they're going to be all taken fairly high. Especially Dalton and especially Clark. Rounds 1 through 3, both those guys should go
for sure.
At the latest in there. And Dalton, I think, is going to be first round. I mean, what he did last year was amazing, and I'm hoping the Chargers land him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Isn't it amazing? Like, just to obviously we lived and analyzed every Utah football game so much. It is kind of just funny to see like the national media slowly but surely just realize like, oh my gosh, this guy in Utah is so special because he wasn't even a final, as I bang my decks literally, for the top college tight end, which is asinine. It's unbelievable. But now everyone's looking at him like, I literally see videos like Dalton Kincaid, Travis Kelce, ? I'm like, that's like, yes, like that's like, dude, we're not saying he's going to be that, but like, yes, if he's like getting those comparisons, shouldn't he be in a top 3 for college tight ends when he's leading it in yards and all the other stuff?
I can't remember what show it was, but like, I don't know if it was like Good Morning Football or like one of the ESPN segments, but all of them were high on Dalton Kincaid like last week, and they were talking about how he torched USC.
Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson was on there,
and I'm like,
it's NFL Live. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm like, Really? We're just talking about this now? That
Yes.
was like 6
Mhm.
months ago. Come on, like,
I know.
and it's not like
He set records, or nearly did.
yes, yes, and it's not like, oh, he's made some noise since then, and we're just kinda, like, analyzing some, like, decent games or big games. It's like, y'all should have been talking about that the day after it happened because it was
Exactly.
it was unlike anything I've ever seen.
That was
I mean,
so much
that's
fun.
that's one of the best tight end performances I've ever seen at the college
Oh,
level,
yes,
and
for me it is.
it's almost like the national media just hit the snooze button on it, and now they're waking up and realizing just how good he is, and I'm excited for him. I mean, his story is so cool, and the progress that he made. I mean, a year ago, he decided to come back because he had to. You know,
Mhm.
he probably wasn't getting drafted, and I don't even know if he's signing a free
Actually,
agent until a year ago.
I think he would have gotten, from everything we've heard, he probably would have gotten a combine invite. So I do think he would have gotten drafted, but nowhere near. Like he's not even
No,
sniffing the first round. We know that.
late,
Yeah,
late,
and just because you get a combine invite doesn't mean you're going to get drafted. We all remember Nephi
right?
from last year, combine invite, not getting drafted.
Yeah, late. I mean,
Mhm.
Dalton. Yes, Dalton has had the potential, had the skill set to probably attract somebody, and someone's going, "Hey, this kid's a steal. We'll take him in the fifth, sixth, seventh round, whatever it is." But he did what Devin Lloyd did. He made
Exactly.
a business decision. He bet on himself. He came back. He did the work. He put in the effort. He made it happen. And now the guy's going to get a bag, and he's going to go in the first round. It's awesome. And Utah's just going to keep doing that.
Mhm. Bring
Just
Struck
going to
for
keep
Dalton
happening.
Kincaid. That is definitely what's coming up for him because he should be a first round lock. Things fluctuate, change, but hopefully it all works out for him. It's going to be a fun week for the Utah football team now with 22 Forever game in the books as we prepare for the NFL draft. Cole, with so much Utah football news going on, where should people head over to read about it?
Uh, yeah, I mean, check out Fan Nation, at any point for the latest news on all things college football, NFL, NHL, a division of Sports Illustrated. Super, a lot of good things going on over there. And then as well, as I mentioned, I've worked with a lot of these players in constructing NIL deals and whatnot, getting exclusive apparel. If you head over to allufans.com, you can shop whole bunch of players: Chase Kennedy, Justin Medlock, Bryson Barnes, Devon Bailey, Corinne Reed, a whole lot of players. And we've got a couple more coming this summer. So head over there, support the guys directly. It's been awesome to see the NIL grow in the state of Utah, specifically for this University of
Yeah.
Utah program. So don't hesitate to go over and support those guys directly. They deserve it, and I know that they really appreciate the support. So yeah, it's good. There's a lot of good things ahead, and it's exciting.
It is really exciting. Make sure you guys head over to Fan Nation All Utes to check all that out. Also, if you guys are in the market for a second listen every day, Locked On's NFL Mock Draft Special is here, and it's bigger than ever. Follow along all 32 teams' first pick in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience only Locked On can deliver. All episodes are available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Cole, thank you for joining us.
No problem, man. Been
Make sure,
It's good to have Utah football to talk about.
Yes, amen to that. We got a long offseason ahead, but there are still lots of fun stuff coming up. We'll be talking the Crimson Collective this week, Utah recruiting, NFL draft stuff, of course, and still reacting to the Utah spring football game and the 22 Forever game, of course. But thank you guys for listening to Locked On Utes, and we'll see you tomorrow.